What a way to kick off the 2025 One-Up Turbo Truck Series 2 weeks ago at Daytona. A great race, several different drivers proving they're going to be contenders all season long, and in the end, a first-time winner in the form of Derek Hammill. But this week, we reset, do it all over again for race number 2 of the 2025 season, and we do it here at the Richmond Raceway. This 3/4 of a mile oval has got a lot of history to it, got a lot of racing action packed in here, and these guys are going to be sure to go all out over the course of the next 70 laps here this evening. And alongside me to bring you all the action is the man who owns the truck that won last time out at Daytona, Ryan Griffin. Great to have you with us. And well, from the euphoria of Daytona coming back down to reality at Richmond, what's the feeling got to be like going into this weekend?
Well, let's just say first of all, it was quite a fun time after last race out, and I know the whole crew and the whole team definitely celebrated it. They definitely enjoyed it. But you just pretty much phrased it as this is now we come down. It's got to take care of business. This is now we're into the bulk of the rest of the season, and that's you got to, as much as you enjoy the high and euphoria of success in Daytona, you got to try to continue that and carry that on if you want to be a contender and a player for this championship. And Richmond is an animal all in itself too. It's a short track that races like a super speedway at times, and there's action all around this track. And you want to, for those that had bad runs in Daytona, you want to come into here and you want to have a solid, good, straight run. And I know it's what Hammill and the 59 team we're going to try to do this weekend. I know that's what he wants to do to continue the momentum from the win, and I told him as such. I'm a champion in this series because we didn't let the euphoria of one win put us in a hangover for the next week. We kept and got back to business and moved on to the next week. And I can't wait for this race. This racetrack is fun to watch action on, and it's a fun little short track, and I'm hoping the people at home will enjoy it too.
And a quick look at the standings going into this race. It's pretty much the order we had at Daytona when we took the checkered flag there. Derek Hammill with a 5-point advantage over Francois Chastain in second. Got a couple guys up there that we will not be seeing tonight. They are not racing for the championship, so they will drop out of the picture after this week at Richmond. But with that being said, as you take a look, see where your favorite driver is, after that, we can bring you the starting lineup for tonight's 70 laps of racing action. And after a near miss at Daytona, led a lot of laps there, Paul Villalobos reestablishing himself as the guy to beat this season. He lines himself up on pole position, and AF Walsh, after an equally disappointing day at Daytona, lines up alongside him. Santi Messi and Curtis Stevenson and a pair of Chevrolets start third and fourth, with Justin Whitmer rounding out the top 5. He enters today 6th in the standings, looking to rebound after almost getting the win with the help of his teammate at Daytona. But with that being said, we've got a lot of superstar guys dipping down into this race. Miles Mashburn starting in 9th, Julio Cesar 13th, and Henry Thomas 17th. So there's a lot of good talent in this field starting mid-pack, and it's up to them at this point to get from the back to the front pretty quickly.
And the other thing is, Richmond, unlike Daytona where you're kind of at the mercy of the pack, Richmond, if your truck is handling good, you can make up ground here at Richmond. You can pass here at Richmond. It's not like you got to wait for what line goes good or get a push from behind and assist to get you through the field. Here you can basically get to the field. If your truck is strong enough, you'll get to the front. And I noticed the other name that's up there in the starting order, John McFadden, who honestly I think probably had the best truck at Daytona. He's starting P7. He's a guy that I know is going to be hungry tonight. And you mentioned the 66 of I always mispronounce his name, Villalobos, and I'm sure I mispronounced it terribly there. But Paul, I know he has come into this season with this mindset that he wants to prove that he is a championship caliber team, that they've got what it takes to take it to Curtis this year. And I think he just needs a little bit of luck to go his way, and he very well could challenge Curtis, and we'll see tonight if maybe this is his first bullet.
And with Curtis starting down in 15th, it's the initial edge to the 66 team, but after 70 laps, it is only then that we'll see how things shape out at the end of this one. So, with that being said, we've got 42 trucks ready to take the green flag. We're ready to bring you that action now. It's the 1UP Turbo Truck Series from Richmond Raceway and the green flag, getting ready to get this race underway. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss a second of what's to come. Getting set for 70 laps under the lights at Richmond with Villalobos and Walsh on the front row. The green flag is in the air, and for 70 laps, the Turbo Truck Series takes on Richmond, and it looks as though Santi Messi spun the tires. That's going to drop him back to 4th place behind Curtis Stevenson, who immediately goes on the attack, trying to get by and join his teammate at the front of the field.
And I'm telling you, that 66 team, all they've been thinking about is what happened at Daytona. Then they came out, put it on the pole. And already here through the early lap, they're going to lead the first lap. And I guarantee you, they want to lead every lap. They want to just dominate this race if they can. But the O2 may have something to say about that as he closes back up to the back bumper of that 66. Because pretty much we're single file back to about 6th place at the moment. This is the first side-by-side action on the track. But man, that O2, he's trying to get there. As we look back here, there's Chastain up on the high side. Looks like he's lost some ground. Or actually, no, wait a minute. That might have been where he started. Yeah, look at this. We're 3 wide back here for, I believe, about mid-pack.
Yeah, it just shows these guys are doing everything they can to gain track position early, because it's always the best time to gain position when everyone's bunched up together like that. But back at the front, the top 3 have sort of broken away from 4th place Messi, so it is AF Walsh and the Fingai Saitomi O2 being put in a Robbers Racing sandwich at the moment. Villalobos out front, Stevenson running 3rd.
And we have all this, going back to what you said about the best time to get everybody, yes, that's true. On restarts is when everybody's bunched together. At the start of the race, too, it's the fact that your truck is the freshest it's going to be. And probably your truck is going to be it's the best your truck's probably going to be throughout the day. So you're trying to get everything you can get here off the start and see how many positions you can gain. As we see a battle right now here, there's McFadden in the 98. Again, honestly, I think he had the best truck out at Daytona last race, and he almost came back. He ended up finishing 4th in the race after a late race spin as he battles the 72 currently of Mashburn.
Yeah, and Mashburn will be in this truck for the first 3 races of the season. Daytona here, and then next week next time out at Atlanta. So he's going to be contending for wins, and he's on a mission here. He told me earlier he front-loaded his schedule with as many races at the start of the season as he could to try and be the first driver to win in all 3 series. He's currently running 9th, doing a good job so far. Probably not where he wants to be, but still a solid effort from the 72. As we look back at Henry Thomas here in this 15 truck, this is a big story from the past week, that he managed to purchase the assets of Monarch Engineering from AF Walsh, and now he's put the 15 truck in the field as part of his own team, and he's currently battling DJ Curtis for a spot in the top 15.
And honestly, that's kind of a surprise with Curtis. Granted, we're only 8 laps into the race, but he pretty much is running about where he started. But granted, we've seen this before out of the 22 team. We may not see him from the early chunk of the race, but as we saw, especially last race out at Daytona, they'll show up at the end of the race. So I fully expect the 22. Again, you don't really want to see somebody losing spots early on in the race, but I fully expect that 22 to show up into the top 10 by the end of this thing, as their history has shown.
Yeah, absolutely. You never count out DJ Curtis. He sometimes gets a bit of a slow start, but that's just part of the territory. He'll be fighting for position throughout the entire race, I feel. But back at the front of the field, we see Villalobos starting to eke out a lead over Walsh, and they're starting to put some distance between themselves and Curtis Stevenson. Meanwhile, we got a side-by-side battle, looks like for the 4th position. Whitmer trying to get by Messi in the 3.
Yeah, Whitmer's another one who looked pretty strong down at Daytona and just wasn't able to get the win, but it looks like, again, another one like the 66 having a strong start to this race. And that was the question we had going into Daytona was, who's really going to be the competitors that can really challenge Curtis for this championship this year. Now we're to a track here at Richmond where we're going to see that start to show up a little bit. And again, obviously the 66 has proven this weekend. I don't think we can count out this 02 for the start of the season and a possible title contender too. Sitting here solidly qualified second, currently running second to the 66, and still, he's keeping Paul honest here as far as staying right up in that back corner, just trying to stay close, as we got a kind of a dogfight there for third right now.
Yeah, that's messy. He cleared Whitmer a lap ago, and now he's gotten past the 6 of Stevenson on this lap, so moved the 3 up into a podium position, about a second and a half off of the lead battle. But you took the words right out of my mouth. That 02 is keeping the 66 from getting too far out in front, and I think that's going to be a battle worth keeping an eye on all race long, because neither of them had the finish at Daytona that they wanted, but I think they're going to both be real contenders. Not just this race, but I think all season, once Walsh gets used to the Fingai Saitomi trucks. And I think he doesn't need much acclimation time, considering he's in second and both his teammates are out of the top 15.
Exactly. He came out of the box so strong at Daytona too. I was kind of surprised again, being part of the FPM family. It was kind of surprised to see how strong he started, but now seeing it here, it's like, yeah, this guy's going to be good this year. Definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. And obviously, he's trying to track right now the 66 for the lead. Unfortunately, the way it is here at Richmond, once you get kind of spread out, you kind of get, when you get behind somebody like that, you get in the wake, the dirty air, and it's hard to get around somebody when you're in the dirty air like this. So he's trying his best, but we'll see if he can maybe catch a break. Maybe his truck will be a little better than the 66 as the run goes on. See if he can get him then, but right now it looks like the 66 in control of this run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how this race shapes out, as we got a battle here for 11th. We got a bit of a big pack actually back here, and here's DJ Curtis again. Like we said, his teammate David Wells is with him, so it's not just an issue with the 22. They're currently down at 18th and 19th. Not where we expected the FPM trucks to be running. Granted, AF Walsh is right there in second, but either the setup didn't get passed along to these two, or they're trying something different on the 22 and 92. But the good news for them, at least, is that they've got a lot of trucks up ahead that they can go past.
Yeah, and again, I'm not too worried about the 22, because as we've seen their history, but it is kind of a little concerning, at least at this point in the race, to see the pace out of those two trucks. But again, looking at the 02 and the way the 02 is running, it's obviously not a team thing, because the 02 is running as good as he is. So maybe it could be just the way the trucks fired off. They could have fired off a little differently than the 02 in terms of setup, to where they're set up. They may have more long-run trucks than, firing off for this initial kind of 20-lap run. So we'll have to see. Again, it's not I know Finn guy's going to look at it and say, okay, maybe we would work on that, but we'll see, Again, we've seen the 22, we've seen Curtis do this before, so I'm not too worried. I'm sure the fans of Curtis in that 22 team are a little worried at this point, but I wouldn't be that worried.
And meanwhile, we're looking at some of our superstar drivers in the field tonight. Julio Cesar making his Truck Series debut this evening, doing a solid run in that 61 that Lane Sanders, of course, drove at Daytona last time out. Of course, he got in a wreck there, didn't finish the race, but Cesar's given this truck a good run. His teammates up ahead of him, running in the top 10, doing a good job for Seismic Motorsports, putting both trucks in the top 15, as we got a glimpse of that 16 just ahead of Miles Mashburn. He's running 9th, Cesar 14th.
Yeah, and Cesar's one that I think honestly he is a really good talent. I think if you could put him in any type of equipment, he'll get the best out of that equipment. He's showing that, at least so far tonight. Working his way through where he is, and again, the first time in a truck, he'd probably get a little acclimated with it and get used to it. But I guarantee you, he'll get the hang of it, especially if he makes a couple more starts this year. We'll see him at the front one of these races.
And I believe he is due to make a couple more starts in that 61 this season. Of course, Brian Williams going to handle the majority of the season in that 61. Lane Sanders ran it at Daytona, and we will see Cesar again in this truck at Charlotte later this year. So We'll get another run out of Julio Cesar there, but for now he's doing a great job given this is his first start. But back at the front of the field, where the battle for the lead's taking shape, AF Walsh has not let Paul Villalobos get too far away. They have, of course, gapped themselves quite a distance to third place Santi Messi. They're 2 seconds clear of him, but I think barring a yellow flag, these two are going to make this a race amongst themselves.
And honestly, what I'm kind of looks like right now is I think the O2 might even be a hair better than the 66. But what I mentioned earlier, he's behind the 66. He's in that dirty air, and I don't think he can get the truck to get underneath to get a look underneath of the 66 right now, and I think that's his issue. I think if he gets around the 66, we might see the O2 kind of maybe gap the 66, because it looks to me like the O2 is a little quicker. But we'll just have to see if that's the way it goes. Right now, Paul doing, oh wow. We got one trouble down the front straightaway.
We got an issue with the 08. That's Blaine Saylor. He was running in 8th position at the time. Something gone seriously wrong with the Team Duke 08 machine. He's pulled it down to the side of the track, trying to find a safe place to pull off, but the pace truck's not lit up. We're staying green.
Yeah, it looks like for whatever reason, the truck just... no power down the front straightaway. Looked like I didn't see any smoke coming out of it, so...
Yeah, we're sending someone down to Team Duke pit to see if we can diagnose, or see if they can diagnose for us what's going on with that 08, but that's a real shame for Blaine Saylor. He was having a really good race today, started 11th, he was running in 8th at the time. As Walsh dives down the inside, this could be what the opportunity he needed.
This is exactly what I said. I think once he was able to get his nose underneath the 66, I would not be surprised if once he completes this pass, he pulls away from the 66, but actually Paul able to hold him off here. Oh, I don't know, but just okay. Now Paul has cleared him, but these two trucks seem to be either like one slightly better than the other, or almost on the same footing, because again they've completely pulled away from the field, almost 2.5 seconds on third place. So I think these are the two trucks to beat at the moment. It's just a matter of who actually is going to get it between the two of them, because both seem pretty strong.
Yeah, but it demonstrated, though, that Walsh has the ability to pull underneath Villalobos and fight for that lead, as it looks as they're going to check underneath the truck that we're being told it's a suspension problem on the 08. They're going to try and go underneath it, try and figure out an issue, see if they can resolve it, but no, Saylor's out of the race as a result. They could not get that issue under the suspension fixed, and Blaine Saylor becomes our first retirement here on lap 33.
And that's again, it's unfortunate to have an issue. So, granted, if it happens early in the season, it's something that you can kind of somewhat make it around. You really don't have an issue early in the season, but it's another one we talked about at the Daytona. Had issues and had, come in here, and again we're seeing two of them up front tonight that didn't have the finish of Daytona that they want. So you very easily could come back the next week. You usually don't want to have to do that, but
yeah. And Saylor was another one of those guys who had a rough outing at Daytona, and now he's got a second straight DNF to start the season. He's going to need a good day at Atlanta to boost himself back up the order. But notice something, we keep popping in on the back of the field and see where they're running. The reason we're doing that is because it's not going to be that many more laps that Villalobos and Walsh are going to catch the tail end of the field and get into some lap traffic. And I feel like once that starts, that the battle's really going to take shape between these two.
Yeah, we just crossed the halfway mark in this race as well. Yeah, you're exactly right. I think when they get to this field again, the 66 so far has not had any dirty air. The 02 has had to contend with being behind the 66 and having dirty air, which has hindered, I think, his chances of getting at the 66. If Paul gets this lap traffic, that's going to flip. Now the 66 is going to be in the dirty air, just like the 02, and now we have basically a more level playing field, so we'll have to see if the 02 can pounce on him when they catch this traffic.
But you can see he's losing a little ground. He's fallen back to about half a second behind the 66, so he might just be cooling his tires down, waiting for the moment where they do get into this traffic to go back on the offensive, but they've put a really big gap between themselves and the new third-place man, Justin Whitmer, who got past Messi a couple laps ago, and has built his gap up to 1.4 seconds between the 91 and the 3, as Chastain now gets under Stevenson for 5th position. But like I said, once these guys start getting in the lap traffic, I think that's when Walsh is going to push the go button again.
And I kind of like that move if I'm Walsh right now. You stay enough close to Paul that if he makes a mistake or something, get him before they get there, but stay close enough to him. Try not to use your stuff up. When he catches that lap traffic, that's when you pound. And it's that way you save a little bit of your stuff to be able to make it when you catch the traffic, and you can kind of get your run set up right to try to make a run when he catches the traffic.
Yeah, and they're only about a straightaway, maybe half a straightaway behind the back of the field now. As Whitmer runs third, he's got kind of a lonely race going right now in third, 3.3 off the lead, but about 2 seconds clear of 4th place. But yeah, I think Walsh is starting to mount a challenge again, because he's cut the gap down to a 10th and a half. And I think at this point, he's got to realize that the laps are starting to wind down. We're in the second half now. There's less and less time to get a move made.
Yeah, that's why I think he's taking. It's almost like he's laying back, taking cool stuff, and coming and trying to make an attempt at it. And I think he realizes, okay, if the attempt doesn't work, I'll back off again, say, make another run at it. But he's trying to do this because I think he's also trying to time it to know when they catch traffic. He knows the 66 is going to get into the dirty air like he is. He can try to seize that opportunity when the 6.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch as we make our way through the field in reverse, see where your favorite driver is running after 43 laps have been run tonight. But Villalobos has led every lap of the race so far. He's locked up the point for leading the most laps, which is going to give him a big advantage once this race is over if he can hang on to possibly score as many points as he can and jump up the point standings after a disappointing outing at Daytona. But Walsh is doing everything he can to force the 66 to look in his mirrors more often, and Villalobos, if he's going to run the ideal race here, he's got to focus out his windshield and focus on navigating the lap traffic. The problem he's got is Walsh is trying to force him to look into his mirror more often, and that's going to be a very valid distraction for the 66.
Well, not only that, if Walsh stays where he is, it's not so much that the 66
is not staying there for much longer.
He's not in the mirror now, and he can look alongside and see him alongside as here comes Walsh now. Side by side off turn 2.
Will this move stick this time for AF Walsh? This time he's a little further alongside than we saw the previous attempt. He's got a nose ahead of the 66 out of turn 4 to complete the lap. Villalobos stays ahead at the line, but I think Walsh is in a much better position now than he was the first time.
Yeah, well, I was kind of getting ready to say before he made the move that he did, but I was kind of saying that it wasn't so much that he was in the 66 rearview mirror, it was the fact that he's put the pressure on the 66. So Paul was going to have to think about him when he got catching lap cars and what line he run is there was a lead change, is that Walsh will lead that lap but at the same time, Paul is still fighting on the top side. We actually have a second lane here. They actually have the side-by-side lead.
It took a while for us to get there, but AF Walsh and Paul Villalobos putting on a big show for these Richmond fans, and as they come off the corner to complete lap 48, Villalobos going to retake the lead back, so our second lead change in as many laps. But AF Walsh hanging tough on the inside, sticking it underneath Villalobos. He's not quite clear out of turn 2.
Out of turn 2 is the furthest he's been out, so maybe he can get it done down here in 3 and 4. Finally, he will, and he does. AF Walsh now firmly to the lead.
And we just took 21 laps to go. Perfect timing for the O2. Now he gets the clean air. We'll see if he can pull a gap on Villalobos. Now, the problem for Walsh is you can see the 46 of Shane Allen just ahead of him. Allen currently running in 41st position. And at this point in time, won't be much longer until the O2 and the 66 catch the 46, and we'll start to have to fight him. Because Allen's going to want to stay on the lead lap in the hope we get a caution late.
Yeah, everything we just said has now flipped roles. So The agenda for the 02 is the agenda now for the 66. The agenda that was for the 66 is now for the 02. And the roles basically reversed. So Walsh, again, I still think his truck is a hair better than the 66. And as we can see, once he got the lead, he was able to pull maybe a truck length and a half on the 66. But again, he's in the same position that Paul was, and that is, now you're going to be the one that's going to catch these lap trucks. But again, by the same token, the 66 has not been behind another truck tonight until just recently. Whereas Walsh has. So he knows what his truck is going to do in this traffic. Paul does not.
And the thing about this for Walsh is, if he can build a big enough lead over Villalobos, it's already over half a second. Once he clears this 46 and takes off, then the 66 is also going to have to deal with Allen to lap him. So it all depends on how quickly each of these drivers can make their way past the 46, as well as the 9 and the 0 up ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I honestly think the 02 is just better than the 66 at this point. Because look at the gap he's put now on the 66. Even with him catching this truck, he's still got a pretty good gap with the 66. And he's going to make the move here on the 46 going into turn. So I think the 02 is just the better truck at this point.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we? Because we're coming up on 15 laps to go. Allen's doing the best he can to stay ahead. This is his one-up debut, doing a solid job putting that truck in the field. But at some point, he's got to realize that this 02 is not going to want to stick behind him. Because look, Villalobos just cut half his gap down in the space of one lap with Walsh fighting Allen like this.
And again, here's the same situation we saw as far as with the lead, although Walsh to the inside of the lap car. And Paul's trying to get back to him, but again, I would have expected the 6 to try a little bit closer. I think the 66 was so fired off so good in that clean air, but once he got behind, I don't think this truck is handling as good as the 02 is. And now the benefit for as you said with Walsh is now he's got that lap truck that the 66 has got to deal with now, and he can go put more of a gap between him.
Because he's got a little bit of a gap now between himself and the 9 of Derek Petty in 40th position. So Walsh is free to take his time now and just click off laps, because we're only got 13 laps to go. The gap's about 0.8 of a second between himself and the 66. So I wouldn't be as worried at this point about for the 02. Just click off laps, and if you catch the 9, great. Take your time getting around him and maybe the 0 up ahead. If not, just hang out back there. You know the 66 is handling worse now.
Yeah, and I think I noticed that too, because I think Walsh did the same thing when he was catching the 46. I don't think he was as concerned about catching the 46. He took his time, and yes, we did see a little bit of the gap shrink between him and the 66. But as you can see, once he got by the 66, he is gone from 66 right now. So I think that this 02 truck is just the better of the two trucks at the point.
But this is probably not what Walsh wants to see. He does not want to see these lap trucks going side by side ahead of him, because now he's kind of boxed in with nowhere to go. He's going to try and get past Reggie Fogelman here in the 0 pretty quickly, and he'll probably do that without much issue. And he's got a second's gap now to Villalobos, as we're within 10 laps to go now. But at this point, I think Walsh has just got to take his time picking through this lap traffic, because he knows he's got the better truck. He just can't afford to blow it dealing with the lappers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this 02 truck is by far the better of the two trucks at this point. And I think even then, we talked about the two trucks being side. He was really concerned about it because I think he knows his truck is better. Plus, now he has a lap truck between himself and the 66. So
yeah, but the problem he's got,
there's a truck between them.
The problem he's got now is look at this pack of lap trucks right in front of him. Wyatt Wilkinson making their truck debut tonight. Derek Petty, Johnny DiLorenzo, Kinnunen, Bedard. They're all battling for a position in the mid-30s, and they're trying desperately to stay on the lead lap at this point.
But by the same token, I'm still looking behind Walsh in that shot. The 66 is stuck behind the lap truck. He's stuck behind the 0 at the moment. So, again, that one truck buffer, this 02 truck, yes, it's you don't want to have slow traffic on an. But he's still got that one truck between the two of them that the 66 has got to pass if he even wants to have a chance at the 02.
Well, we're coming up on 6 laps to go, and the gap is starting to shrink between Walsh and Villalobos again, but you're right. Fogelman is still in the way, and Villalobos is going to have to deal with that 0 before he can even think about getting back to the 02's bumper. And I think now is when Walsh is going to try and get underneath Petty to try and put him a lap down.
Exactly, because Walsh hasn't yet had the concern, although Fogelman is going to go high there. It kind of left lane there for the 66, but again, Paul was not close enough to get underneath the 0, and again, I think that's the difference. So too, again, I think he knew what kind of truck he had when he was behind the 66 and how he's going to be able to negotiate this. And he's kind of taken the same approach, even when they got double. He kind of took the same approach, and that's why he's got the advantage he has at the moment.
And we're into the final 5 now, and now he's got 3 trucks between himself and the 66, soon to be 2 as Villalobos laps Fogelman. But he's got Petty and Wilkinson side by side now to deal with. So I'm not saying it's over yet, because this is the Turbo Truck Series. A lot can happen in a short amount of time. But we're coming up on 3 laps to go, and AF Walsh is building his lead even bigger.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we had that race, I think it was, at Irwindale last season, when the guy lead the race, caution came out, you thought the race was going to go, it was over, it was going to be his, and the truck blew up, coming back to the caution. So anything can happen here in the Truck Series. And, it may look like it's on cruise control as he comes to 2 to go. But the only flag he wants to see at this point is that white flag, because he knows it ends the race no matter what.
Yep, and we're coming to that white flag next time by. And Walsh has 2 trucks between himself and Paul Villalobos. He's got DiLorenzo, Bedard, Kinnunen directly ahead of him. But it's not going to be long now. The white flag is in the air for AF Walsh.
Yeah, and again, this 02 truck definitely been the class of the field tonight, I think, honestly. I think once he got the lead, once he got by the 66, he pretty much proved that he has the best truck, and it's like he's going to go cruise on to a victory here in Richmond.
So while his teammates stumbled, AF Walsh, the new guy at Fingai Saitomi Motorsports, is about to get the biggest win of his life. Advance Australia Fair for AF Walsh out of 4 for the final time. He's a winner at Richmond.
It'll be back-to-back, actually, for Ford. Hammill winning Daytona and Walsh winning here at Richmond. So Ford starting the Turbo Truck season outright.
And back-to-back first-time winners as well. AF Walsh gets the job done for the very first time. He is a winner in one-up competition. And Paul Villalobos, second again for that 66. But he led the most laps tonight, had a really good truck. We'll see him in victory lane later this year, I'm sure of it. Justin Whitmer actually made a pretty good comeback at the end of that one to only finish a 2.5 seconds off the lead. He completes the podium. Messi 4th, Stevenson 5th, Chastain, McFadden, Mashburn, Clayton Sessom in the 82 doing a good job for Ventum Motorsport, and Samantha Jade completing the top 10.
And to go back to the 66 for a moment, yes, they got outmatched here, but we know this team. Again, they were the pole sitter at Daytona, had a strong truck here. They're going to be a factor this entire season. They may not have won tonight, but a good second place finish after the way Daytona, that's definitely going to give them good medicine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely out of the shock.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great season to watch because DJ Curtis never really recovered today. He finished down in, I believe, 17th place. So with that, Villalobos has drawn first blood in that battle, and I would expect them to be back at the front of the field at Atlanta next week and going forward for the rest of the season. But with that being said, from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, thanks for joining us for 70 laps at Richmond. We'll see you again in 2 weeks at the Atlanta Motor Speedway for another great race there. The trucks have never been there before, but I'm sure we're going to put on a great show there. Until we get to Atlanta, so long from Richmond. Congratulations to AF Walsh, the new guy at Fingai Saitomi Motorsports, picking up career win number 1 in grand style, coming from behind to usurp Paul Villalobos here at Richmond.